Turf Wars is the second of 3 DLC packs included in the City That Never Sleeps Season Pass for Marvel's Spider-Man, and it sees Spidey confronting crime boss Hammerhead. And while it's still a good time and worth playing for Spider-Man fans, it's a noticeable step down in quality from the first piece of DLC, The Heist. And when all was said and done, I couldn't help but feel somewhat disappointed with Turf Wars. Did I have fun with this DLC? Yes, I did. The mechanics here are still rock solid and the story touches on some compelling themes, but it also drops the ball in some areas and Hammerhead as a villain feels underdeveloped. Let's start with a positive. The first thing that struck me about Turf Wars is its difficulty. This DLC doesn't hold your hand and features the most difficult and complex fights yet, really making you put all the skills you've learned so far into practice. From the get-go, you are thrown into the deep end with Turf Wars. The very first fight in this DLC sees you taking on a series of Hammerhead's thugs who are armed to the teeth with Sable weaponry. Hammerhead is the major focus of this DLC, and he makes a strong first impression. He's menacing and vicious, and his first appearance does a good job of showcasing the sheer brutality of the character. However, as the DLC goes on, I started to lose interest in the character. I found him to be a very by-the-numbers villain who was lacking in any real motivation for what he was doing. Which is disappointing, because up until this point, Insomniac have done a great job with the villains. But where Hammerhead falters, another character really carries this episode. That character is Yuri Watanabe. Yuri had a strong presence throughout the campaign in Spider-Man, but this DLC has the strongest focus on her yet. Yuri is a total badass, and Turf Wars does a fantastic job of delving into her character. There were also some dark and unexpected developments that I really wasn't expecting, but was pleasantly surprised to see the game explore. I also loved the ending for this DLC, as it has major implications for the characterization of one of the major characters. My only other disappointment aside from Hammerhead with the DLC's story was that it didn't really carry on some of the story threads from the first DLC like I expected it to. The story missions are once again accompanied by some new side content. There are new crimes to stop, new screwball challenges to tackle, and a series of Hammerhead fronts to take down. These Hammerhead fronts were one of my favourite parts of the DLC. These are basically the same as the Fisk construction sites from the core game. You enter one of these sections and are tasked with taking out waves of enemies. These fronts are by far the most difficult areas we've seen in Spider-Man yet. They really pushed me to use every gadget I had at my disposal, and it always felt like I completed them by the skin of my teeth. The screwball missions in Turf Wars are also more challenging than the ones found in The Heist. For example, stealth missions are filled with spotlights that will cause you to fail. This makes you think about every move you make carefully. I also really liked the way some of the screwball challenges encourage you to use different gadgets in unison in ways you may not have thought to before. Like The Heist before it, Turf Wars includes 3 new suits: the Spider Armor Mark 1, the Spider Clan suit, and my personal favourite, the Iron Spider armor from the comics. Once again, these suits are purely aesthetic as they don't add new suit powers, though I personally like this selection of suits more than the ones included in the first DLC. Turf Wars is a fun but flawed expansion for Marvel's Spider-Man. It's definitely weaker than The Heist, but it does offer enough interesting story beats, particularly when it comes to Yuri, that I would recommend playing it. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to like and subscribe, or check out my review for The Heist, last month's DLC.